Hey everyone, today on the Cardboard Herald we're taking a look at Nemo's War, a solo-focused design by Chris Martin with artwork by Ian O'Toole that is an adaptation of Jules Verne's classic 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And yes, I said solo-focused design. This does play 1 to 4 players, but unlike most games where it's designed as a multiplayer experience and the solo mode is a nice little consolatory nugget on the side that you could play. No, this first and foremost was designed and developed as a solo experience, and the multiplayer is that extra variant that you could play if you want to. But here at the Cardboard Herald, we're looking for the authentic experience, so we are playing this as a solo game and reviewing it as such. So let's get into what is this game. Nemo's War is a strategic adventure game in which you are taking on the role of the eponymous Captain Nemo in his ship, the Nautilus, which has James Bondian gadgets attached that you can modify throughout the game, and you're traveling across the seas trying to interfere with foreign governments and collecting treasures and finding secret passageways and also doing battle with enemy ships, doing scientific discoveries. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but all of it is going to mash into hopeful points that you will be able to compare with your goal that you want to achieve throughout the game. There are 4 goals. They make up the sort of modus operandi, the intended focus of Nemo as you play, picking one at the beginning of the game. And what's cool is it works as a modifier for all the different ways that you can get points. So that way, if you're trying to do a science victory, then the things that thematically lean more into science are going to give you more points that game, whereas things that are contrary to that goal are going to give you less points. You still have the same capabilities of doing all those things, but it definitely presents a different focus for you, giving you a lot more flavor and a lot more variability from game to game to game. Now, the basic structure of the game is that you're going to draw a card on your turn. That's from a semi-randomized adventure deck. It dictates some sort of event that kicks off your turn. Maybe it's a test you got to do right now for some sort of boon or some sort of bane that you'll have to inflict on yourself. Or it could be a new action that's presented if you go to a certain spot on the board. And then afterwards, you roll some dice, which dictate not only how many action points you have on your turn, a differential between the 2 dice, like a 5 and a 3 will end up giving you 2 action points, but a 6 and a 1 will give you a whopping 5 action points. But also, that's going to dictate where hidden ship chits are going to be populated on the board. And yes, hidden, they're theoretical ships right now, Schrödinger ships, because you don't know what they are. They're representative of the ships that are currently in this pool of ships that can be revealed. As the game goes on, that pool becomes more and more threatening with fiercer and fiercer stuff. But for now, so long as they remain hidden, they aren't revealed until you engage them. Or if you let things get fully out of control, like ants swarming over your picnic sandwich, then eventually, when you can't populate any more hidden ships, they become revealed ships. And revealed ships interfere with basically any actions that you're trying to take in those locations, posing a lot of threat, and eventually you lose the game. But if you make it all the way to the end of the deck without dying up until that point, then you'll get the climactic conclusion card, which is going to kick off the end of the game. If you complete that, then you can compare your points to whatever narrative goal that you have and find out how well you did. And that is Nemo's War. So what makes it so cool? Well, this game has such a beautiful arc, such a wonderful progression as you're playing it. See, at first, it seems like you have this wide open world where there isn't too much threat imposed upon you, but a lot of the things that you do is going to increase Nemo's notoriety, which is like a mechanical tracker at the top of the board. As your notoriety goes up, it adds more dangerous ships into the potential ship pool that you can start revealing, and you're going to have to start thinking about things that are going to lower your notoriety, distract the world governments from your insidious operations. And that progression leads into the intervals in that semi-randomized adventure deck, which accelerate both the threats and the boosts that you get. Which also brings me to one of the coolest moments in the game, where that victory condition, the modus operandi that you were working towards, during the third act, when you reveal that interval card, you can actually choose to switch your focus to a different one at that point if you feel like you need an out and things just aren't going your way. But if you choose to continue with your existing focus, then you get a nice little boost of getting to choose one of the Nautilus upgrades that you didn't populate the board with at setup and make it a Nautilus upgrade that you can now purchase, giving you a lot of mechanical and narrative flexibility and control. It invests you in the game in a really great way, which that brings me to my next favorite thing about the game. There's such an interconnectivity about it. Everything feels cohesive and woven together in really smart ways. The way that you participate in actions is that you're rolling dice to do skill checks, but you can contribute one of the 3 Nautilus resources, either Nemo, his crew, or the Nautilus itself, to various tests. Some are restrictive in what you can contribute. Some will allow you to contribute multiple things or one of any of the 3. But you have to risk that resource. If you succeed in the test, great, nothing happens. But if you fail in the test, not only do you get whatever punishment comes from failing that test, but you also lose an increment on that resource. And as the resources dwindle, it changes how much of a modifier it gives you to your dice rolls. That connects with the actions that you'll want to take. You can spend actions to recover aspects of the Nautilus or the crew, but if there's ships in your current location, warships that are going to interfere with everything that you do, it's going to penalize you in the skill tests that you'll need to do in order to recover. So you decide, well, I better fight these ships. So you fight the ships and you win. You get the ship token and you can either contribute it fully towards points, or you could salvage that, making it a resource that you can spend in order to get some of the Nautilus upgrades. But those Nautilus upgrades are expensive in and of themselves. So instead, maybe you first decide to take an action to recover treasure that has been populated on the board, and you're going to have to choose, do I want to use this and then that makes the Nautilus upgrade cheaper? Or do I want to use this as points at the end of the game? Or do I want to discard it for its ability? For being what is overall a fairly limited array of options for actions that you can do on your turn, you have so much flexibility in how you approach any of these things, and it feels like one action has rippling effects to your capabilities of completing any of the other ones. The connectivity is so great. Now, strategically, there is a lot of luck. This is a dice game, and I cannot stress that enough. If you are a luck stickler, someone who just hates random chance in a game, well, not only do you have the random chance of what cards you draw, but also the dice are going to sometimes be the bane of your existence. Unfortunately, smartly, the game recognizes that luck is a huge factor in the game and gives you a lot of ways of mitigating that. Your ability to contribute static numbers to tests through the Nautilus's resources, the various Nautilus upgrades that you can add that make you just inherently do better during combat or excavation or adventuring, the shipmates that you start the game with that can be flipped over throughout the game for one-time bonuses give you more action points, allowing a bit of a reprieve, or give you the ability to re-roll certain dice. Even the treasures that you recover may come into play during certain tests that you're going to take on. And usually the punishment for failing tests is not so significant that it feels like it entirely makes or breaks this game. So yeah, luck is a big factor in this game, but unlike other adventure games of this ilk, like say Eldritch Horror, you don't feel like you're at the mercy of the game where it's happening to you. You have agency, you make smart decisions, and when things go totally soup sandwich, it still feels like you made the choices that ended up leading you there. The last two things I want to highlight, because clearly I like this game, but I want to at least hit on a couple weaknesses here, are that this game is a bear to learn. The rules are presented very well, but there is a lot to it, and it feels kind of meticulous in how you have to set up and organize the game, especially as you're wrapping your head around how all this experience works. And a lot of that seems kind of opaque and obtuse at first. I've played a lot of games, and I was definitely scratching my head and rereading the rulebook several times. And I think this leads into the second aspect, which is why you would want to be doing anything. I found myself the first game just wondering, okay, now that I have the board set up, I know what I can do. I know how the game operates, but what general direction should I be moving in? Is this a good decision? Is this a bad decision? And some of that experimentation is what people are looking for. They want to feel like they just go in cold and can find out things for themselves. But I definitely would have welcomed an explanation in the rulebook for each of the actions. Here's why you would want to do this, or here's an example of when you might want to do this thing, or here's a couple pieces of advice for your first couple of turns, things that you should be working towards depending on whatever focus that you have. By the end of my first game, I definitely knew exactly what I was doing, but I also did terribly because for the most part, I didn't know what I was doing. So overall, I love Nemo's War. I have thought about it so much since my initial play, and I just want to play it again and again and again. I feel like it offers so much flexibility and variability, not just in the mechanical progression as you play the game and see different things unfold. The events are going to be different, but also your focus is going to be different, and the narrative outcomes are going to be different. There are wonderful bridges between the theme and mechanics throughout. As far as an adventure game, I think it really does a good job of putting you in the driver's seat for the game. Yes, the game is happening and you are interacting with it, but you're still making decisions that feel inherently strategic rather than it veering more towards a purely narrative experience. It is a bit dense. It is a bear to learn. There's a lot to contend with here, but it is so rewarding if you do, and this is the type of experience that you're looking for. This is one of the best first impressions that I've had with a game in a while, and that is our review. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.